David Brewster here on the 3 for All, and this is 3 Brett Garsed Licks from 1986. And some of you watching this might be shocked by the year that's attached to this video. And I know for me, when I found this footage, I was really surprised. I had no idea that Brett's career extended back much further than I realized. You know, for me, I remember his name popped up in guitar magazines, and he started playing alongside TJ Helmerich, Quid Pro Quo. You know, phenomenal band. So if Racer X was the band with 2 Yngwies, Quid Pro Quo was the band with 2 Holdsworths, you know, and Brett definitely has this kind of Gambale, you know, Alan Holdsworth, you know, kind of sound or style, even though he has his own thing. But he does remind me of Alan Holdsworth. There's a little bit of Sean Lane, a little bit of Gambale, and then his own thing. And then Helmerich is this crazy 8-fingered, you know, tapping guitarist, you know, phenomenal player. And when both those guys played together, you know, back in the like late 80s, early 90s, I was blown away. I thought, wow, that's like 2 Alan Holdsworths just killing it. And aside from his work with Helmerich, I mean, he also worked with the band Nelson, you know, like in the late 80s, early 90s. And I randomly opened for the Nelson brothers. That was about 10 years ago. And Brett wasn't, you know, playing with them or touring, but they were doing kind of a tribute to their father, you know, Ricky Nelson. And they did a really good job. Those guys are actually really cool. You know, they're really friendly and kind of silly. And they did a great job. You know, they were definitely paying tribute to their dad. And I was bummed. I was like, is Brett here? You know, and of course he wasn't playing with them. So the licks in this lesson came from 1986. And Brett used to work with John Farnham, who, you know, vocalist from Little River Band. And when he left Little River Band and became a solo artist, you know, he became a sensation in Australia. And in 1986, they released an album called Whispering Jack, and it just blew up the charts. I think it remains one of the best-selling Australian, you know, albums from an Australian artist of all time. And Brett was a part of that and worked with him on a few albums, and then eventually left, you know, to play with Nelson and eventually play with TJ Helmerich and kind of started his own path. But I had no idea that his career went back that far. And when I saw this footage, I thought, man, it's definitely a very 80s kind of solo. There's a lot of tapping, some harmonics, some tremolo bar dipping and stuff. So it's very 80s, but, and it's about like 1:20. It's like this kind of showcase during a song. And, you know, John basically says Brett's name, and Brett does like 1:20 guitar solo and just whips it out. I mean, you can tell like a racehorse just ready to run, and then he just starts shredding all over the place. Really cool solo. But the first lick, he's using the bar a lot, and it takes place all on the G string, and he is also using a Strat, and I noticed he doesn't have a Floyd Rose. He's just playing, you know, like a standard tremolo, so it must be set up to be played like this. But it's something like this. One more time. So the very first thing you hear him do is he's hitting a harmonic on the 3rd fret right there. It's kind of that in-between spot. And then of course you hear the bar dip right there. And then you hear him grab this B note. And then he basically grabs the open G and then does this B, C sharp to D sharp move. And then you're going to go basically up and then back down to that B and then grab that D sharp again and slide up to F sharp. And when you get to that F sharp, you're going to dip the bar again. And then right there, you're going to come down like 3 notes at a time and dip the bar on the first note. Like that. And then right there, you're going to grab that D sharp again and slide all the way up to the B right there on the 16th fret, and then wiggle the bar at the end like this. And then just kind of cruise on that last note. You know, cool lick. It reminds me of like Brad Gillis or somebody like that. A little bit of vibe, but Brad Gillis from Night Ranger. And I guess it's probably the harmonics and stuff. Cool lick. The next lick is the sequenced B minor arpeggio based idea, and he's dipping the bar and there's some shifting and legato. Really terrifying lick though, something like this. One more time. So it starts right here, and once again we're dipping the bar on this B note. So think of that loosely around, you know, like B minor. And then right there you're going to grab that A and then shift all the way up to that C sharp. Like that. It's a tricky sequence in there too, so let me go through it really slow. And then right there, and when you get to that 19, you're gonna dip it. And those little bar dips are kind of timed at certain parts in that phrase. Really cool. So if I do it without the bar dips, you know, that way you can kind of see the fretting. And then with the bar back. Frantic, crazy little lick, and I love those little dips with the bar where you kind of hear those notes being smeared. So cool. Next lick involves tapped harmonics, but it's very different than Van Halen's style, you know, Eddie's style of tapped harmonics. And when I first saw the clip, I thought I knew what he was doing. I grabbed my guitar and then I realized, no, I don't know what he's doing, and I had to figure it out. It's really unusual though, something like this. One more time. So we're definitely tapping harmonics. But then the interesting thing is your fret hand's also hammering on, you know, like when it starts, we're basically moving between D and E, and then you're tapping these harmonics, but you want to actually tap the fret wire. You know, think of where you would play a harmonic or maybe with a slide, you know, like slide guitar. But you want to tap the actual fret wire, not the fretted area that you would normally play. You want to smack the fret wire. And you're going to go from 12 to 11, and then 12 to 14, back to 12. Like this. And then move up a whole step and do the exact same thing and end on that 14 right here. Like that. So it's really unusual because you're hearing the tapped harmonics ring, and then you're also hearing this kind of rolling, you know, legato with your fret hand. And when you put it all together, it has this really interesting sound. I like it. And you're hearing these overtones, you know, from those harmonics. You know, really unusual, but I like stuff like that where it's different. It's like, whoa, I don't think I've ever seen that before. And here's a bonus lick from this footage, and this is terrifying. And it's this, you know, position shifting legato lick, and it's just flying around all over the place. And when I saw the footage, I thought, man, I like that lick. The only bad part is the first half you can't see his hand, and then the second half you can actually see his fingers. So I had to take some liberties and really, you know, hone in on what he was doing and try to guesstimate what the first part of it looks like. But I came up with something like this. One more time. So it's crazy, and it's basically based around F sharp Dorian, and slowly we're doing this. crazy lick. And it's a hard one to control because you're moving around and changing positions, and it's sequenced, you know, where you're not just running straight up and down a scale. You're maneuvering through a scale, which is really hard. It's a crazy lick. Let me go through it one more time really slow. And I think one of the toughest parts is right here. And right there, I mean, you're definitely going to have to rely on your pinky right there. That's tough. Definitely a very demanding lick, so work on that really slow and then gradually start speeding it up and play it faster. Alright, that's going to wrap this look at 3 Brett Garsed Licks from 1986, and like I mentioned earlier, I had no idea his career extended back that far. I'd never heard, you know, of John Farnham, and familiar with Little River Band, but I'd never really heard John's solo music and his solo albums. And when I heard, you know, I was like, Whispering Jack, what is that? I looked it up. I had no idea. I was like, wow, that is huge in Australia, and it's really only popular in that country. But when I saw that and kind of got more of the history behind it, and then I started to trace, you know, Brett's career, I was like, hey, I didn't know all this stuff happened, you know, before, you know, TJ Helmerich and, you know, Shrapnel Records and stuff. Really interesting. And it's cool to notice music that exists in another country and it thrives. And then maybe that artist, you know, hits the big time or whatever. And then some of those early things are kind of forgotten or overshadowed by, you know, what they did later in their career. But I love to dig in those, like, you know, historical tracks, and it's like, yeah, listen to this stuff. You know, that's where it came from. So anyway, leave some feedback and some comments. Please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content material. Thank you.